Thank you very much, Stephanie. And I do want to thank the King Faisal Center for Research and Islamic Studies and the Atlantic Council for organizing this important webinar about a subject that unfortunately doesn't quite get enough attention, certainly not in the West. So I think it's worth mentioning that prior to my appointment as the official spokesperson at the Saudi Embassy here in Washington 2 years ago, I was affiliated with the two think tanks out here in Washington. I was also a columnist for a Saudi newspaper. And in that capacity, I spent several years writing about various developments, political, social, economics in the kingdom. One of the issues that I followed and wrote about very closely was education reform. In fact, in 2016, I was in attendance in Riyadh at a press conference when back then the Minister of Education, His Excellency Dr. Ahmed Al-Isa, announced the launch of a new training program for teachers. This program entailed sending 900 teachers of both genders to various countries for training and to have firsthand experience with new teaching methods and methodologies. This was the minister himself spoke very openly and very frankly about the need to improve the effectiveness of teachers and about the need to understand and to gain and to learn from some of the lessons from various countries and to work and to partner with other countries and other institutions that have had success in this field. At the same time, also worth mentioning is that back in 2018, I attended almost a week-long conference that was organized by the Ministry of Education, also in Riyadh. This is an annual conference that they host every year. That year, the theme was the importance of early childhood education. This conference brought literally hundreds of Saudi teachers from all over the country. And not only that, it actually included teachers from the United States that year. The United States was the guest of honor of the conference. And again, it was a multi-day long conference where teachers spoke about some of the new reforms that are being implemented, some of the new technologies that are being incorporated, as well as some of the challenges that they continue to face. Not only that, but I actually had an opportunity to attend a number of workshops during those days with teachers, seeing some of the training that they're undergoing. Again, not just to deal with new teaching methods, but also it became very clear to me that the kingdom has really adopted a comprehensive approach to education reform. So not only were they discussing, new teaching methods, but they're also looking at, meeting the emotional needs of children. Like I said, the theme was early education. This is an issue of much debate now across the world. So it really, to me, brought home the fact that there's an absolute sincere effort that extends all the way from our leadership, from King Salman and His Royal Highness Grand Prince Mohammed bin Salman, down to the Minister of Education, to the administrators, and definitely all across the board to the thousands of teachers across the kingdom. Now, ultimately, we believe that education is the key to unlocking the potential of our greatest asset, which is our human capital. We have a predominantly young population. We believe that education will enable us to become not just regional, but hopefully global leaders to harness the power of science and technology and to transform the kingdom and to lessen its dependence on energy sector. So, the ultimate objectives are clear. We want to develop well-educated, well-informed, well-engaged students who can not only compete with their peers around the world, but who can also contribute to the development of the kingdom, but also contribute to the improvement of the human condition more broadly around the world. The objective is also to develop more effective teachers who see teaching not simply as a job or an occupation, but who see it as a well-rewarding career. And obviously, we are well on our way towards establishing world-class, state-of-the-art educational institutions as well. Now, having said all of this, I think it's very important to realize that almost by definition, education reform, much like healthcare reform, is always a work in progress in the sense that you can always do better. So unless every single student is a straight A student, there's always work to do and you can always do better. So if we take that into account, and if we take into account the fact that the science of both teaching and learning is ever evolving, and if we take into account also the fact that technological tools have been introduced into the classroom that really have changed dramatically the way that teachers teach and students learn, it makes sense that this process is not just ongoing, but it would be a little slow because there's so much that we have to incorporate into what we're doing. But there's no doubt in my mind that there's a commitment that comes all the way from the top. And Najah, I think, did a nice job in her report that shows all the various dimensions and different efforts that we have put over many years. And because we really do believe that, it really all starts with education.
So let's turn to the problematic content in the Saudi religious curriculum. The U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom stated in a 2020 report that while there has been, quote, progress in recent years, end quote, on addressing intolerant content in official textbooks, including for the year 2019 to 2020, there are still intolerant passages in the textbooks. And a 2018 study by the Anti-Defamation League of curriculum for the 2018 to 2019 school year suggests the same thing, that the Saudi Islamic syllabus is moving towards greater tolerance, yet some content to incite persists. So what steps is Saudi Arabia taking to address that remaining content that is, quote, likely to incite? And what timeline do you see for completion?
Right, so the content of the textbooks has received a lot of attention over the years. What I can say is that our education officials have long acknowledged that in the past, there was some material that was deemed objectionable, that was deemed offensive. And we have made a very concerted effort to remove all of it from the entire curriculum. And not only that, but we have replaced this offensive material with lessons that promote moderation, toleration, and peaceful coexistence. The message that Saudi students hear at their schools and here at their mosques, incidentally, is very consistent. It says that Islam is a religion of peace, moderation, toleration. We do absolutely embrace the fact that the Muslim community is diverse. We have done it in both deed and in word. We have supported a number of institutions over the years that have, in fact, promoted interfaith dialogue and understanding. So just to name a few, there is the Global Center for Combating Extremist Ideology that is more commonly known as I'tidal. This is a center that is based in Riyadh. We have supported the King Abdullah Interfaith Dialogue Center in Vienna, Austria. We were one of the founding members of this institution. We have also supported the UN Counterterrorism Center. We, in fact, gave it $100 million in support back in 2016. We have supported another local institution inside Saudi Arabia known as the King Abdulaziz Center for National Dialogue. This is another institution that has promoted dialogue, constructive dialogue and understanding and diversity of Saudi people inside Saudi Arabia in general. Just more recently, 2 weeks ago, this year marks, we are the president of the G20. So we convened a 5-day interfaith forum, a virtual forum that again brought together leaders of a very wide spectrum of people of faith to talk about the importance of religion, to talk about the importance of interfaith dialogue and understanding, and to talk about how important and how religion plays an important role in people's lives and how it can be a force for good in resolving many of the issues that we as an international community continue to host. Not only that, but a few years ago, we even convened what I think was a groundbreaking meeting of Muslim religious leaders representing every tradition and every denomination of Islam, that ultimately at the end of that meeting, they came up with what is known as the Mecca Charter that again stresses the importance of diversity of the Muslim communities, stresses the importance of respecting differences of opinions and diversity of Muslims in general, and also peaceful coexistence with people of other faiths. So having said all that, I think what these reforms have begun to pay dividends in very real ways. And so if it's possible, Stephanie, I know that I've provided your colleagues with a photo that I think really speaks volumes about how the education reforms that we've begun implementing, that we implemented actually a number of years ago, are paying dividends as we speak. So if you could please, if it would be possible to put up this picture for a second. So
we will get it up in just a second.
Okay, no worries. So one of the ways that our education reform has begun to pay dividends, as I said at the outset, one of the objectives is to develop students who feel engaged and feel compassionate, not just inside the kingdom, but more broadly around the world. So we have an estimated 200,000 students studying in countries as different as the United States, the UK, Japan, India, China, Russia. Obviously, all of them are there to attain a formal education, but at the same time, many of them have taken the opportunity of being in these countries to give back to their local communities. So as we speak, since we're in the United States, I'll use the US as an example, there's an estimated 40,000 Saudi students here as we speak. Many of them have taken some time off from their studies or have in their time off from their studies have used the time to give back to their local communities. So they're volunteering their time at senior homes, at soup kitchens, at schools, at hospitals. Some of them have even traveled across country to help various communities recover from natural disasters. The picture that I provided, I don't know if it's up on the screen or not, shows a Saudi student-led organization known as Hand by Hand, where Saudi students were helping some of the communities that were hard hit by Hurricane Harvey in the Houston area back in 2017. And I think that is a credit to what Saudi students are learning through their education institutions, as well as their mosques. Saudi students now believe that they have both a moral and a religious obligation to help their fellow mankind, regardless of their religious faith or their national background. And the picture that I provided shows a number of these students working, doing some pretty hard work, physically reconstructing and rebuilding a home in Houston. So I think this is credit, to the effort that we have put forward. But like I said, this is an ongoing process, and we will continue to invest time and money and effort towards, making sure that our students have every tool at their disposal to succeed both in the kingdom and to compete with their peers across the world.
Well, I can say from personal experience with the Saudi students I've been fortunate to call friends. I've been so touched by their generosity, so I can definitely attest to that. So let me actually take a question from the audience here that is aligned with something I wanted to bring up too, which is, and this is what Najah touches on in her report, which is really the importance of teachers. So let me find this question so I read it out. Okay, so this is from Neil Patrick. Like judicial reform, doesn't education reform in Saudi Arabia partly depend on changes in key personnel on the ground and ensuring they have a wide basis of training in order to apply new teaching methods, new curricula, and new teaching materials? In turn, what is the basis for monitoring in a fully transparent way whether the education changes are affecting actual teaching practices in the classroom? So asking about the education ministry's role in this. So maybe Najah and Fahad, you might like to talk about this one?
Yes, of course. I think, so I think the Ministry of Education had some departments to evaluate and assess all the programs that have been taken over the few years. But I think, the education reform is a long-term process, and even the Ministry of Education is not expecting to know how successful these programs have been in a short time. So, but as long as the ministry has some departments to evaluate and assess all these programs and their short-term achievements, I think that is the right thing to do. But it's early know whether these programs actually are working or not, because this is a long-term process.
Fahad, did you want to address this one too?
Right. I mean, as I said at the outset, the training of teachers is absolutely a critical component of the broader education reform effort. We have long known this, and that's why we have invested quite a bit into training, not just inside the kingdom, but like I said, we have sent hundreds of teachers to various countries around the world that have a bit more experience in this sector than we do in the kingdom, and countries and institutions that have a record of success, evidenced by scores of not just evaluating teachers, but also obviously ultimately what you're looking, the ultimate metric is how your students perform. So this is an ongoing process. We absolutely believe that the teachers are a key to the success of this. And just going back to one of the points that Farah raised, we also, I think, long acknowledged that in the past, we did have some elements in our educational and religious institutions that did espouse extremist views. We have gone out of our way to make sure that they are no longer in our institutions. We have suspended or expelled thousands of both teachers and imams. We have trained, as I said, hundreds of others. We are doing everything we can to make sure that extremists of any sort have no room to maneuver or to succeed. In many ways, I think that Saudi Arabia views itself as a leader of the international community's effort to counter extremists of all sorts, but certainly extremists, in our region. So we have done everything we can. We are using every tool at our disposal to counter the mindset, the men, and the money that allow extremist organizations to thrive and to threaten the security of countries around the world.
And Fahad, is there a monitoring and an evaluation system that's been implemented or will be implemented to assess teacher competency and some of these other elements?
Right, absolutely. So the ministry does have ongoing programs that evaluate the performance of teachers, but not only that, we have also provided mechanisms for parents to provide feedback for students as well. So we believe, again, not only have we approached this in a kind of a multi-pronged approach, but we believe that for education reform to succeed, we do need input from various sectors, not just obviously teachers, teachers, administrators, but the parents play a critical component. And as I said, we have partnered with our outside partners in the United States, the UK, Europe, and elsewhere to learn from some of the successes we've had. We realize this is a long-term project. As I said at the outset, this is an ongoing project that we will never really be satisfied unless every single student is a straight A student. And obviously that situation doesn't exist anywhere. But I think it's also instructive to note that not only is education reform an ongoing process in the kingdom, it's an ongoing process everywhere else. So again, outside the United States, as an example, there's the debate over education and the efficiency and the effectiveness of education here in the United States. I think from what I can tell is still ongoing. So you have people, for instance, who believe that have questions about the Department of Education as an institution and believe that the states should lead the education effort. I happen to live in the state of Maryland, and I know that some of the public schools have changed their curriculum almost entirely 2 years ago, and that has also been the subject of debate here locally. So it's an ongoing process, but we are doing everything we can. We're fully committed to making sure that our students have every tool at their disposal to succeed. Right, so I think it's worth mentioning a couple of years ago, His Royal Highness Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman spoke at the Future Investment Forum, and he was asked about some of the reform efforts in the kingdom. And he said that we do not have time to waste. We've wasted many years trying to tackle this issue, the issue of extremism, but it is time that we solve it and end it once and for all, because of the fact that we do have a predominantly young population. It is a population that is becoming increasingly better educated. It is well connected to the rest of the world. And we, as was underscored in Najah's report, we obviously, His Royal Highness also unveiled Vision 2030 in 2016. And one of the keys to the success of the vision is education. We fully believe that technology and science, innovative thinking hold the key to unlocking the potential of our Saudi youth, and it is the key to transforming our economy. So frankly, there's no room. We've adopted a zero tolerance policy when it comes to extremism. So if you're an extremist of any sort, you will not have a role to play, certainly not in our educational institutions, not in our religious institutions. And certainly if you go further than that, you will be held to account for any violent actions that you engage in. So we are fully committed to this, and we work very closely with our partners in the United States and other countries on, again, promoting interfaith dialogue, on working together very closely on countering the activities, the narratives of extremist groups around the world. And this will continue because I think it is a key, certainly, to the success of Vision 2030. But ultimately, as I think we've all unfortunately found out the hard way, extremism is a global challenge. We have all faced it in one way or another, regardless of what the ideology is. And so it's a global challenge, and it absolutely needs a global solution. And that global solution can only be achieved through cooperation between various countries. And we believe that the kingdom is at the forefront of this effort. My apologies for that. Can you hear me now? Yes. So I do want to thank you for including me in this conversation, Stephanie, and I want to thank the Atlantic Council and the King Faisal Center as well. So I think it's important to stress that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is reforming its educational institutions, not because of some perceived outside pressure or scrutiny, but because we believe that a good education is the bedrock of a strong economy and a vibrant society. So a solid education sector is both a goal and it's a goal as well as a part of the Vision 2030, and it is one of the keys to its success. As I said at the outset, the vision was announced in 2016. It is transforming the Saudi Arabia in many ways. It is not just transforming the economy, but it really, I think, in many ways brings a new way of thinking about the possibilities that we have in the kingdom. We strongly believe that our strongest asset is our youthful population. We believe that they have unbound potential. Now, we are trying to do everything we can to give them the tools to succeed. We also, the vision ultimately, one of its objectives is to create many jobs, and we do have a lot of jobs, technical jobs in the information technology, healthcare, the financial sector, as well as in tourism, entertainment, hospitalities. These are all sectors that have been essentially built from the ground up. And we firmly believe that for all of these sectors to thrive, we need a robust and effective education sector. I think we are well on our way. I think we're beginning to see a lot of the scores go up on various metrics for both students as well as teachers. And we fully intend to continue this process, working closely with other institutions as well as partners around the world, because as I said, by definition, education reform is an ongoing process. It's almost a never-ending process because you can always do better.